It's 11:19 p.m., and the air outside the studio feels like a mouth cut open to the night. Dry wind off the foothills pushes dust down Colfax and sneaks under the door, and when it dies, the whole block goes still, in a way I've never heard before. No buses, no brakes, no faraway sirens. The temperature's fallen hard since sundown, down in the low 40s now, and each time I touch the metal rack holding the old transmitter, I feel the cold crawl through my palm like the steel is trying to remind me who's in charge. My name is Tanner Briggs. I'm broadcasting on 103.2 FM from a second-floor room above a boarded laundromat 2 miles east of downtown Denver. The lights in this strip are out from Grant to York, maybe farther, but a car battery and a little gasoline generator 3 floors down are keeping this rig alive for now. If you can hear me, it means the antenna on the roof is still upright, and the cable I ran up the stairwell hasn't been chewed through by the wind or anything worse. I don't have much to offer except this voice and a bit of a map in my head, but sometimes a voice is the only proof a person has that the world didn't fall all at once. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. You're going to want me to start with why I'm on the air at this hour and what went wrong. I wish I could tell you this is a storm or a strike or some piece of bad luck that will roll through and leave us with trees to cut and roads to sweep and stories for kids who haven't been born yet. I can't tell you that. I can tell you where I was when it began to feel wrong. It was 4 days ago, just after lunch, clear sky, front range looking painted on, when a push alert hit every phone in the newsroom at the station I used to work for. It was the same alert you probably saw if you were anywhere along the I-70 corridor. Runaway livestock on the highway near Lyman, multiple crashes, use caution. We laughed because the photo attached to the alert was nonsense. A blurry shape with a tail too long to be a cow and a neck that looked like a crane angle gone bad. Someone said a rancher must have a sense of humor. Someone else said it was a prank, an AI fake. The next alert said the state patrol had shut down the eastbound lanes near the wind farm, and there were injuries. An hour later, a clip started to circulate in the newsroom group chat before it got scrubbed from every platform. The clip was 30 seconds long, shot from a delivery truck stuck behind a jackknifed trailer. Wind turbines turned slow in the background, all peace and geometry. A woman is crying on the audio. Something moves between 2 crushed cars. It isn't a cow, and it isn't a crane. It walks like a bird with its head too heavy for its body, tail straight, arms tucked close. You can hear someone whisper that it's a trick. Then it lifts its head and screams. Or maybe that's not the right word, because a scream is human, and this sound comes from a place we don't have words for. It steps onto the Jersey barrier and the driver drops his phone. You never see the thing fully, the way you never catch a tornado in your windshield until it takes the glass. I wish I could say that was the moment, that if someone had made the right call right then, shut down an interchange, sealed off a few miles of road, none of this would be in your ears. Those of you who live here know it didn't stop there. The next day was planes taking off and landing at Denver International without GPS for an hour, then with it again, then without, like a kid is flicking the light switch somewhere. People said it was solar flares. The airport had a small fire in a service tunnel. The official account said it was under control. A baggage handler told me over text that something had clawed the insulation off a bundle of cables, and they were trying to figure out how a rat left marks that deep. Later that afternoon, a dentist in Aurora sent her sister a photo of a flood of patients with hand cuts, finger bites, one boy with a missing thumb, and wrote that it wasn't from a fight or a game, but from a strange turkey thing in the drainage ditch they'd tried to film and chase. That message bounced around our phones too. We made jokes, because that's what you do at the start. You ask if the turkey had a parking pass. You laugh to give yourself a little room to breathe. By the time the third day rolled up, the highways felt like a slow heartbeat. People were leaving the flatlands and edging up toward Golden, Evergreen, Conifer, anywhere the ground goes steep fast, and there are fewer places for a thing to run at you in a straight line. A friend at the Weather Service said they were told not to put out the red flag warning, even though the air was dry and the wind was up. Someone higher up didn't want the word warning on the air if it wasn't about weather. They told him the power companies were throttling lines to avoid arcing if vegetation brushed them. No one wanted to say they didn't want a spark in a city where half the people were sleeping with a tank of gas in the bed of a truck. But you can't put a tarp over dread. It leaks through and soaks your shoes. I'm talking too slow for some of you. You want the clean cut of what happened. The sentence that tells you what you're up against while your hands feel for the wrench or the flashlight or the shelf where the canned beans used to be. Here it is. A biotech park out by Watkins, the low, new buildings with mirrored windows you pass without looking on your way to the airport, is not what it said it was. A different company owned by the same people, with a name meant to roll off your tongue and slide out of your mind, Frontier Genomics, used that space and a buried wing next to it for something no one should have tried. They took scraps and pieces pulled from oil shale and old bones. They took protein blueprints and patched gaps with parts from living animals, and they made things that should have stayed drawings in a book. They told investors they could print meat, big cuts, grow tissue without a farm. They told a different set of investors they could create a new kind of attraction, living exhibits the size of buses that could be leased to any city with a fairground. They told the government a different story about defense and deterrence and studying the past to protect the future. You could spend the rest of your life peeling their stories and never hit the core. I wouldn't know any of this except that when the first clips started to vanish and the State Patrol locked their radio channels and the airport went to minimal ops, I got a call from a man who used to bike with me on Sunday mornings. His name is Isaac. He has a small scar on his left cheek from a too-fast turn at Sloan's Lake 4 years ago. He used to work in a windowless room mixing orders of lab-grade solvents. 2 months ago, he was moved to a job that paid twice as much to sign for deliveries in a corridor only 3 people could access. His voice over my burner was thin and ragged, and he used my full name, which he never does. He said, "Tanner, I need you to put this on the air before they take the air away." He told me the short version first. He said that in July, a shipment of living embryos arrived without the usual paperwork. The boxes stayed in the cold hall for 2 days. Then, a team of 11 people who didn't work for the same company came in at night and carried those boxes into the wing with its own power, its own sewage, its own filters. He said in August, there were new alarms on doors that already had 2 alarms. He said in September, there were loud noises underground in the middle of the night, like a truck on metal stairs that went on for an hour, then another hour, then all at once a silence that sounded like ice over a river. He said on the morning of the first day, the day of the wind turbine clip, his badge stopped working, and he was told to go home for a week and expect a bonus. He said he checked the dumpsters behind the complex out of habit and found a load of shredded plastic drums with a smell that hit the back of his head and made his stomach push. He said a woman in a white coat with no name tag watched him from the far end of the lot, and her hands were wet. He said her hands were wet in a way that wasn't water. He said the security cameras weren't pointed where they had been the day before. He said he called me because I had once told him that if anything bad ever really happened in this town, I'd tell the truth about it. So I drove out there that afternoon. I told myself I was going for the story, for the rush of being first, for the chance to turn the buzzing in my head into a stack of words that fit together like a brace over a fracture. Truth is, I think I went because I didn't believe, and I wanted to get close to the lie so I could push my hand against it and feel it give. The buildings looked like always, too clean, too new, spaced like teeth in a rich smile. But the parking lot was wrong. No cars up front where the executives like to roll in and leave their fobs on the dashboard to remind the rest of us that doors open for them by themselves. Instead, a thin line of rental pickups and panel vans stretched along the service side. The wind, always present here, carried a sound I couldn't place at first. A kind of low hoot, deep and hollow like a flute made of an animal bone. Not a machine. Not a bird I knew. It came in sets of 3 with a pause between, like someone was counting the returns. When the sound stopped, my brain leaned forward, waiting for it again. When it came back, I felt hairs lift on my arms. I've heard elk bugle in Estes, coyotes yip on the prairie, a mountain lion once, a steady soft cough like a person trying to scare you without being seen. This wasn't like any of those. There was weight in it, a chest behind it, the old shape of a throat from a time before we named things and put them in books. I didn't go inside. I'm not stupid. 2 workers in reflective vests stood by the fenced loading area sharing a smoke, one with a bandage wrapped from knuckle to wrist and a strip of duct tape over that. When I got close enough to ask a dumb question about a job, one of them told me to leave, and the other stared over my shoulder at the line of cottonwoods as if the trees might start moving. The bandaged one said something like, "We're behind schedule," which doesn't mean anything until you think about what schedule requires bandages and flutes under the floor. I left. I called Isaac. He didn't pick up. His phone went to a long, empty ring like a room with no furniture. When I got back to the station, my badge let me in, and then didn't. A green light at the door, a red light on the elevator. The power in the newsroom flickered like a bad thought. The emergency lights clicked on, and then off, and then stayed off, and for a few seconds, the building hummed in that heavy way a person hums just before he faints. Then the hum stopped, and all the screens went slot machine bright, filled with the same message in a clean blue font about staying calm and staying off the roads, while authorities handle a temporary public safety event. We all stood there and watched our screens tell us to behave like children at a drill, while 2 blocks away, a woman ran down Broadway without shoes, and a man shouted from a rooftop that something big was in the alley. If you've ever put your ear close to a big engine and felt the way it vibrates through your teeth, you know what happened next. The ground didn't shake. The air did. It trembled from the inside so that your chest felt loose for a second, and your brain tried to find a beat to step to, and couldn't. Windows on the north side winked white, and then were windows again, except for a hairline crack running corner to corner, like a thing had looked at them too hard. Someone said, "Earthquake." Someone else said, "Blast." I could see the rail yard from the newsroom window. Long black tankers and gray hoppers lined up like an alphabet. 3 of the tankers were no longer straight. They were bent in a slow curve that things that aren't rubber aren't supposed to make, like something heavy had used them to rub its back. That's not a thing you say out loud if you want people to keep listening, so I didn't. I said, "We need to go live." The news director, who has a white patch of hair above his left ear and a pension in sight, said, "We go live when they tell us to go live." I have never wanted to hit a man and hug him at the same time before. By dusk, every line we needed to do our job belonged to someone else. Our shared dock, our messaging channel, our satellite uplink, all of it white-screened or bounced to a login prompt none of us had seen before. Reporters who were better at being reporters than I ever was started calling their personal sources. Most phones went to voicemail. Those that didn't offered stories in soft voices from bathrooms and parked cars. A nurse at Swedish said the ER filled with bite wounds that didn't match dogs. A firefighter in Commerce City said the call came in as a natural gas leak, but there was no smell, and the hole in the fence looked like a fork stabbed it. A wildlife officer said he was told to stay home and not take his rifle from the cabinet. A guy who does traffic for a living said he saw a sleeper bus from a team we all know pull under a bridge near Quebec, and the windows move like the bus was breathing. That was when two things happened at once. The police scanner fell silent and my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize that started with a Washington area code. I answered because sometimes we make dumb choices when we're tired, and because I still half believed this was a mean joke the world was about to walk back. A woman with a clean, even voice told me she was with a department that would prefer not to be named, and that I should not say the word I had typed into a note on my phone, and then erased, and then typed again. She used the word before I could. She said, "Do not say dinosaur on the air." I told her we weren't on the air because someone had taken the air. She didn't laugh. She said, "There are ongoing operations to contain a release from a private laboratory. Your cooperation will save lives." She said, "There will be a coordinated information package by morning." As if you can pack information like a lunch and hand it to a kid on his way to the bus. I asked for details. She said, "Do not go near open water. Do not go near green belts. If you must move, do it under roofs." She hung up. I stared at the last line of the note on my phone where I had typed the word dinosaur in lowercase, and then capital D, and then lowercase again, and felt like a child looking up from a picture book to find the wolf sitting in the kitchen chair. That night was when the city started to come apart in ways you can measure with your hands. A delivery driver named Marco, who brings tacos to the newsroom when we forget to eat, told me he saw a long shape run across York Street without making a sound, the way a video game thing slides over the map when it isn't loaded right. He said it looked wrong because it didn't look at him. It looked at his side mirror. It looked at itself. A woman from a tower on Spear said the river had stopped sounding like water and started sounding like a big animal breathing in a cave. A guy from the airport said the west runways were closed because something had made trenches in the grass between them, long and straight, like a farmer was going to plant rows of airplanes. A teen with a skateboard said he and his friends found tracks in the gravel lot behind the closed bowling alley that looked like 3 fat fingers pressed hard into wet dough 1,000 times. By morning, the press conference was a no-show. The coordinated message came in the form of amber banners at the bottom of every screen telling people to remain calm and clear the roadways so emergency services could move. The problem was, emergency services weren't moving. Engines idled in place because no one would drive under the lines of trees in City Park after videos from the night showed branches shaking without wind and cars rocking and a boy screaming in a tone that made every older dog in the neighborhood stand up and stare at the walls. The power company cut sections of grid to stabilize service, which meant we had dark islands everywhere. I walked through one of those islands with a backpack full of batteries and a boxy old FM transmitter I borrowed years ago and never returned, and I felt eyes on me that weren't eyes, just the way your spine knows the space behind you isn't empty. I reached the laundromat building, ran the cable, and I've been here since. I need to give you the simple list now. The list the calm voice on my phone wouldn't give me, and the list the banners didn't show because nothing is allowed to be sharp in public anymore. If you're in an apartment above the second floor, stay there if you have water. If you're on the ground floor near a green belt, get up one level if you can do it without crossing open grass. Do not go to trailheads. I know the instinct. We're mountain people and canyon people and prairie people, and when the inside gets mean, we go outside. Don't. There are things out there now that own the long straight lines between trees. Do not trust any fence that wasn't built to hold a bull. Wood slats are nothing to a jaw that can take down a door. Chain link is a ladder to a thing with claws. The highway is not safe unless you can keep your vehicle moving at 60 for more than 5 miles without stopping. If the highway slows to a stop, and you're in a flat area near culverts and drainage, leave your car and get to a building with a roof and a door that locks. If you hear a long, hollow call in sets of 3, you are near a pack that is calling to split you from whatever you're with. If you hear heavy breathing that doesn't match your own, and a slow scrape like someone dragging a couch, you are near a big one that likes the dark more than it likes the open. If you see birds explode from a line of trees with no wind, don't wait to see what follows. Move. You will hear theories from people who once wore badges in buildings with no windows. They will say a name for a program you never voted for. They will tell you that nobody wanted this, but bright people had grants and oversight and a chance to make something new, and sometimes you break a few eggs to make a future. I'm telling you a theory that came from a guy with grease under his nails named Ray, who fixes the washers in this dead laundromat and who used to hunt in the breaks along the Arkansas when you were still allowed to drive your truck out to a rim and sit on the hood as the sun went down. He says, if you build something that eats and moves and makes more of itself, you haven't made a tool, you've made a mouth. And mouths don't obey. They don't care about your press release or your stock price or your plan to store them in clever pens with half their parents' instincts removed. They will find the old rivers and the old paths, and they will remember that other living things go soft when you apply pressure in the right place. I've said I wouldn't put callers on the air, and I won't. It burns time I don't have, and it gives away locations to ears I don't trust. I will tell you what people have whispered, and you can choose how you carry it. A man named Daryl from Montbello says there are small ones moving in groups along the ditch behind his mother's house, the kind with long tails and 2 stiff hands they hold away from their chests like they don't know what hands are for. He says they test the doors and then lose interest, and that would be good news if interest stayed lost. It doesn't. A woman named Annika from Littleton says she saw a shape like a giant crocodile slide under the Santa Fe Bridge without a splash, slow as a barge, and the water above it folded back together like a zipper. A nurse named Haley at a clinic in Lakewood says they treated a man who tried to save his dog and ended up with a bite pattern on his forearm that looks like a set of chisels bit him and came back for the same place twice. She says he was shaking with cold while he was burning with fever, and he kept saying the same words over and over. You can't outrun hunger, until he fell asleep upright in the chair. I hear the doubt in you now. You're saying this is all hearsay. You're right. The official updates are tidy and small. They tell you which streets are closed and which shelters will open, and then do not open, because the staff did not show up. They tell you there is no reason to panic while the city posts a job listing for animal control specialists with hazard pay and the bold letters say, "Experience with reptiles a plus." I slept an hour this afternoon with my back against the rack, and in that hour a dream came for me that felt so close I woke with my mouth open like I had been trying to bite a sound out of the air. In the dream, I was a kid again, standing in the Natural History Museum, in the big hall where the old bones reach up to the skylight like hands that want the sun. I remember the way the volunteer's voice echoed as she told us how long these things were gone. Longer than the age of your grandfather's grandfather's house. Longer than the hills. Extinct, she said, slow to make sure we heard the weight of that word. It felt safe, how large and how far away it was. We could look without fear because the looking was the only danger left. Then, in the dream, the bones bent down, and their skulls were full, not bare, and a smell like wet rock and iron hit the back of my throat. They lowered their heads the way animals do when they're curious, or when they mean to bring their teeth into play, and I woke with the taste of dirt in my mouth and the generator coughing through the floor. I'm telling you this because I think a lot of you are having the same dream. Your brain is trying to fit a new shape to old stories so you don't go mad. You will not go mad if you do simple things. Drink water, eat salt, keep your feet dry. Keep a light for starting a fire that is not a battery. Put on another layer when you're cold, not because you think a jacket will stop a thing with teeth, but because your body makes better choices when it is warm. There are people who know more than I do, and they are trying to work in rooms with generator hum and backup fans and the weight of animals moving overhead. One of them is a man named Ortega, who taught comparative anatomy at the university before the administration told him to move his office to a trailer because they needed his lab for a wellness center. He says he was approached last year with a contract to consult for heritage species reconstruction. He laughed then and told them to find a poet if they wanted heritage. They sent him a photo this spring of a small embryo under a microscope with a tail and a curve to its jaw he recognized from a paper he wrote in 2006. He told them they had used his work and that he wanted nothing to do with it, and that the day would come when they'd ask him to lie on camera. No one called again. Yesterday, he left me a message with 3 sentences. The first said, "They are not resurrected, they are assembled." The second said, "An assembly has gaps." The third said, "Gaps look for ways to fill." I don't know what to do with those sentences except hand them to you like a tool that might help you pry a window that's stuck. I have to say something hard now. It's about guns. This is a place where a lot of people own them. Some of you sleep better with one on the nightstand. I'm not going to tell you not to keep the thing that gives you sleep. I'm going to tell you that the pictures in your head of how this goes are wrong. You are not going to square up in a street and win a clean fight with something built like a boulder with a tail for balance. You can scare small ones. You can change the minds of scavengers. You can't do much to a skull that evolved to take punishments from the fall of a tree and keep chewing. If you have a weapon and you think you have to use it, think about distance and height and whether the round you have will go through a thing and then through the wall beyond it and into the room where your kid is sleeping. Think about the echo that will tell every living thing within a mile where you are. Think about how smoke breathes. I'm not preaching. I'm asking you to do math before fear does it for you. Another thing that will save you is to make friends with old machines, hand crank radios, bikes, a saw with teeth you can sharpen with a file, a wind-up light. Nothing in this city runs without electrons, and electrons are getting moody. A mechanical pump that brings you 6 gallons an hour is freedom. A windmill that turns slow and loud and ugly may be the prettiest thing you own by the end of the week. An old truck with a carburetor is louder than the quiet cars, and easier to fix when the quiet cars turn into sculptures on the shoulder, with dead faces for dashboards. It feels strange to say this in a place where we all ordered the latest thing and pressed our thumbs to everything like kings. But you will not care about the smoothness of a screen when you're trying to boil water without a stovetop. I can feel the power coming off the generator downstairs in waves, thick and uneven. I need to conserve. Before I go for a short stretch to let the battery recover, I want to point you to places that are safer than others for now. The inner neighborhoods with tight streets and lots of brick, where sightlines are short and basements are many. The parts of town with old porches and low walls, where you can see what's coming before it's on you. The larger stores with heavy doors and few windows if the employees are still willing to shelter people inside. Stay away from big open parks, school athletic fields, any place designed to let you run in a straight line, because that's also a good place for something faster than you to run in a straight line. Do not make fires at night where the light can be seen from a distance. Heat canned food in a pot, inside a bigger pot with water if you have to cut smell. Share water treatment supplies with someone on your floor. Old iodine tablets are better than nothing. Boiling is better than tablets. A Brita filter won't save you from what runoff can carry. If you must leave, leave at first light, not before. Things that evolved to own the dark still pause at the moment the sky changes. There's one last piece, and I'm going to say it, though I don't like how it sounds in my mouth. The radios today have been full of a second voice, polite, clipped, reassuring. It tells you to go to the fairgrounds in Jefferson County and to line up in your cars and to wait for instructions. It tells you to trust the process and keep your phones charged and your windows up. It might be true tomorrow. Tonight, it is not. The fairgrounds are dark, and the lots are torn up, and there are 3 trailers on their sides, like they tried to roll and forgot how. If you must go west, go past there without stopping and cut south toward Ken Carroll and tuck into a neighborhood until you can scout. If you must go east, do not go where the airport lights call to you like a false lighthouse. The open land around that place is laced with water cuts and service tunnels and more places to disappear than a mind at midnight can count. If you must go north, stick to the grid and count your intersections, because a straight shot is a dare, and you don't need to be brave tonight. You need to be boring and alive at sunrise. I'll come back when the needle on the battery climbs out of the red. I'll tell you what I hear and what I can see from the roof when the wind drops, and I can stand up there without feeling like something will use the antenna to swat me off like a fly. Put a note on the inside of your door with 3 things you need to do before you open it. Listen. Look down. Look up. The thing you don't expect is never the thing in the center of the frame. It's the shadow above the doorway or the shape under the stairs. Breathe through your nose. Keep your shoes by the bed. Tape a small flashlight to a roll of duct tape so you can carry both in one hand while the other hand is free. Eat something even if you're not hungry. Hunger makes people mean and tired, and mean and tired makes bad choices real fast. You're not alone. You can't see each other right now, but the city is full of people sitting in the dark with a hand on the floor to feel if anything is coming, same as you. I'll speak again soon. Hold your place. If you pray, pray out loud so you can hear another voice. If you don't, count. Counting works too. This is Tanner on 103.2 FM, and I'm not turning this off as long as this little engine below me keeps coughing fuel into light. When you're ready for more, say the word next, and I'll keep going. It's 4:07 a.m. now. The street outside has the feel of a stage where the actors never showed, just the set pieces sitting in the dark, mailboxes, a dead traffic light swaying, a grocery cart tipped on its side. The wind has eased. I can hear my own breath again, which is good and bad. Good because the quiet means the generator isn't competing with the storm. Bad because every soft scrape carries farther, and every time I shift in this chair, I wonder if something below is tilting its head toward the sound. My name's still Tanner Briggs, still on 103.2 FM, still trying to keep this line open while the city buckles. I've been thinking about the way this spread so fast, how one day it was a rumor about a ditch turkey, and the next day it was a skyline half dark. There are whispers that the first breach wasn't the labs at Watkins, not really. They say the labs were only a warehouse, a staging ground, and that the real work happened on federal land west of here, where old missile silos were decommissioned in the 90s. Someone swears they saw flatbeds rolling east on I-70 under escort 2 nights before the alerts began. Someone else says they were hauling live cargo, and the cages were wrapped in black tarp that shifted as the trucks climbed the grade. No paperwork, no manifests, just a handful of soldiers who looked as scared as anyone else. Whatever the truth, you can see the result on the ground. The smaller ones are everywhere now. Too fast to track, too many to count. They move like packs of dogs, but leaner, with tails that cut the air when they run. They test doors, circle cars, scatter when lights hit them, then regroup. People have started calling them striders, and the name fits. They don't roar or scream. They click, sharp and steady, like someone tapping a glass with a spoon. 3 clicks, then stillness, then 3 more. If you hear that outside your window, stay still. They're listening as much as they're looking. The big ones are worse, though. They don't move as much, but when they do, the whole block changes. I heard from a man in Commerce City who said he saw one push through a warehouse wall like it was cardboard. He swears it walked on 4 legs and then stood on 2, and the sound it made wasn't a roar, but a deep groan that rattled his teeth. He said he could feel it through his ribs, like when a train passes too close. The warehouse is gone now, half collapsed, fire still smoldering, but no official word about what did it. Just structural failure. The power grid is bleeding out in sections. First the suburbs to the east, then the downtown blocks, now even pieces of the tech corridor in the south. Hospitals are running on backup, but diesel isn't forever, and deliveries have stopped. Some places are trying to ration care. Others have gone silent. A friend texted me from St. Anthony's before the lines went down. Said they had people with fractures, bites, burns, and that the staff was working by headlamp. Said one of the doctors, a man who'd served in Iraq, walked out after seeing what tore through a patient's arm. Just left his gloves on the floor and never came back. And through all this, the official feeds keep spitting out calm lines about containment. But containment is a word you use when something is smaller than you. This isn't smaller. It isn't even equal. It's bigger. The city feels like it's shrinking around them, not the other way around. I'll tell you this much. If you've got old maps, keep them. The kind printed on paper, the kind you can fold. Digital navigation is hit and miss now, and when it hits, it might lead you into a road you can't get out of. A paper map with pen marks is worth more than a car full of apps. And when you move, stick to grids. Long, straight stretches of highway look easy, but they're hunting lanes now. I can feel the air thinning in this room. Maybe it's just me, nerves grinding my chest. Or maybe it's the way the city itself is holding its breath. I'll stay on the line as long as I can. If the generator coughs out, I'll switch to the hand crank for short bursts. But I'm here. I'll keep talking until my voice is gone, or the airwaves cut me out. You're not alone. Not yet. It's 6:42 a.m. now. The sky is beginning to lighten at the edges, though calling it dawn feels wrong. It's not the soft blue you expect, but a dull, brownish haze that looks like someone smeared ash over the horizon. The mountains are barely shapes, and the streets here in Denver are quieter than I ever thought they could be. Usually, by this hour, you'd hear trucks on Colfax, buses wheezing as they pull in and out, kids dragging backpacks toward corners. Now, it's just the faint hum of the generator below me, the occasional rattle of loose siding in the wind, and once, just once, the low rumble of something large moving between buildings, heavy enough that I felt it through the floorboards. If you're still out there, listening on 103.2 FM, my name is Tanner Briggs, and I need to tell you something you won't hear on the official alerts. Last night, not far from here, there was an attempt by the Guard to move civilians south along a 25. They set up a convoy near Lincoln Avenue, maybe 40 vehicles deep. Humvees, buses, ambulances. People thought it was safe, thought they could ride the line out of the city and find clear ground down past Castle Rock. But about 10 miles into the run, the column was hit. Not by rioters, not by looters, but by them. The striders, the small ones, came first, darting between wheels, biting at tires, forcing drivers to swerve. And then, from the dark stretches along the embankment, came something larger. Witnesses say it was the size of a city bus, moving low, tail swinging like a wrecking ball. The convoy scattered. Some buses rolled. The Guard opened fire, but fire just makes shadows jump. I haven't heard from anyone who made it past Monument. If you were planning to head south, don't. Not now. The city isn't just losing power. It's losing sound. Whole neighborhoods are going quiet, not just from outages, but from people huddling down, refusing to call for help, refusing to make noise that might carry. I walked out onto the roof an hour ago with the antenna cable coiled in my hand, and I looked over blocks of dark buildings, some with curtains drawn, some with broken windows. No voices, no dogs barking, just a stillness that made the skin on my neck itch. It feels like being watched, even when you're alone. Maybe especially when you're alone. I've been holding on to a message I got late last night, and I think it's time to share it. A man who once worked on the excavation crew east of here told me they'd unearthed more than bones. They found impressions, cavities in the rock that looked like nests. Not one or two, but dozens, clustered together, deep underground. They were supposed to be filled, sealed, forgotten. Instead, someone drew up a contract. He said what's loose now might only be the first wave, that there could be more beneath us, waiting. He sounded terrified, and I believe him. If you're listening, here's what matters this morning. Stay inside if you can. If you have to move, do it when the light is strongest, between noon and 2, and keep your roots short. Watch the ground. The small ones move in packs, and they hunt low. If you see birds scatter or hear the 3-click rhythm, stop moving. Hide. Wait. For the big ones, you won't get warning until it's too late. If you hear the air thrum, if the world itself seems to shiver, it's close. Don't run in the open. Find a building, a stairwell, anywhere with corners. I'll keep talking as long as this rig holds. The city may be breaking piece by piece, but you're not alone in it. Every voice that stays alive is proof that we're still here, even if the world has turned into something it was never meant to be again. If you can hear me, hold on. Keep your eyes open. Keep your silence when you need to. And wait for the sun to rise all the way, because daylight is still the only ally we have left. It's 9:11 a.m. now, and the light is stronger, though it doesn't feel like it. The sun pushes through the haze like a pale coin, and every shadow looks thicker than it should, like the city itself is trying to hide things it doesn't want me to see. Denver in the morning used to smell like coffee shops venting steam and bakeries turning out bread. Now, it smells like dust and faint smoke, the kind that comes from places you can't quite spot, drifting from behind rooftops and empty lots. I've kept the generator on low all night, rationing fuel, listening for every shift in the tone of its cough. It's my heartbeat now, steady and imperfect, the only reason these words reach you. I need to tell you about what I saw just before sunrise. I climbed up to the roof for a look, thinking the light might show me something the dark kept hidden. And it did. 3 striders moved down Colfax in formation, not random, not like wild dogs chasing scraps, but in a line, heads turning in sync, tails swaying together like pendulums. They stopped at a storefront with the glass already shattered, sniffed the air, then moved on without entering. It was as if they weren't scavenging, but patrolling. And then, just as the sun touched the horizon, something else appeared at the far end of the street. Taller, slower. I couldn't make out the full shape, but I saw the way the striders lowered themselves when it passed, as if they were yielding. That's when it hit me. These things aren't just loose. They're ordered. They follow something bigger, something older. People keep asking in messages I can't answer if the military is still here. The short truth is yes and no. I heard gunfire south of here at dawn, controlled bursts, not panic fire. Then silence. A man I trust from Capitol Hill said he saw 2 helicopters lift off last night, banking west, but only one came back. He said the one that returned, hovered, lights off, then dropped something heavy into an empty lot before disappearing into the dark. This morning, that lot is scorched, and the nearby walls are cracked like something pressed against them from inside. The official feeds call it controlled demolition. I don't buy it. Water is becoming the new panic. The taps still flow in some places, but the pressure is low, and what comes out smells faintly metallic. If you're listening, fill every container you have now, pots, bottles, even buckets, because when the lines run dry, there won't be warning. A neighbor who stayed behind in a mid-rise near Cheeseman Park told me the pumps stopped overnight. She said people were banging on doors, asking for anything to drink, and she gave away more than she should have. That's how panic spreads. Not with screams, but with knocks that get harder when no one answers. I don't want to scare you without offering something to hold on to. So here's what I've learned. The small ones avoid loud, sudden noises when they don't know the source. A pipe clanged against concrete can send them scattering long enough to slip away. Fire is mixed. Small flames draw them. Big flames make them circle but not enter. Keep your fires controlled, hidden if you can, and never cook meat where the smoke can climb straight into the sky. They'll follow scent as much as sound. I keep thinking about something Isaac told me before he vanished, that what's out now wasn't bred for chaos, but for profit. That somewhere, on paper, there's a business plan with neat bullet points that ends with us living under curfews because someone thought the past could be patented. That thought burns worse than the fear, because if someone made them, someone knew they could break loose, and maybe someone even planned for it. It's morning and the streets are too quiet, but the quiet is never safety. I'll stay on the line until this machine quits, or I do. If you're listening, Keep still, keep watch, and remember that silence can save you as much as sound. The world we knew is breaking under the weight of old bones made new, but you're still here. And as long as one of us keeps talking, the story isn't finished yet. It's 12:28 in the afternoon now, and for the first time in hours, the city sounds alive, though not in a way that comforts. Denver in daylight has always had a hum. Cars on the freeway, construction somewhere in the distance, trains rolling past the rail yards. But today, it's a different kind of noise. It's sharper, fractured. Sirens that start and then cut off mid-wail. Helicopter blades echoing unevenly against the haze. Bursts of gunfire, short, then gone. And under all of it, the calls. Those low, hollow notes I told you about before. 3 in a row, then silence, over and over. The sound doesn't echo like human voices do. It folds, like the air itself bends to carry it farther than it should. I've been watching the blocks around me. The striders are bolder in daylight now. Not many, not like at night, but enough. They cross open spaces, duck into alleys, weave between abandoned cars. I saw one leap onto the hood of a police cruiser, its claws scraping deep grooves into the metal, then hop down and vanish between buildings. Quick, precise, like it was mapping its route rather than wandering. That's the part that unsettles me most. They're not flailing, not hunting at random. They move like they know where they're going. Just before noon, I picked up a faint transmission on another frequency, garbled but clear enough to catch fragments. A voice said, "Containment line, Colfax and Broadway, breached." Another voice broke in, "Hold the south approach." Then, static swallowed them. I climbed onto the roof to see, and sure enough, smoke was curling up from downtown. Not big billows, not yet, but thin black fingers that rise straight until the wind pulls them east. Something is burning down there. The official feeds, still telling people to stay calm, to avoid unauthorized broadcasts. That's what they're calling this, unauthorized. Like my words are a worse danger than what's out there. Maybe they're afraid the truth spreads faster than they can contain it. Or maybe they just don't know how to admit the truth themselves. I've been trying to piece together what survival looks like now. Food, water, light. That much is obvious. But it's more than that. It's about sound. Every person who's made it through the last night and morning tells me the same thing. Sound gives you away. Shoes on gravel, doors slamming, even talking too loud. The striders snap their heads toward it instantly. They don't see well in glare, but they hear everything. If you move, move soft. Tape the soles of your shoes if you can. Wrap handles with cloth before you close doors. Treat noise like a flare. It burns bright, then everything comes looking. I know some of you are wondering about the bigger ones. People are starting to give them names. Giants, hulks, titans. I haven't seen one in full daylight yet, but I've heard the stories. A man near the stockyards swears one took down an overpass with a single push, concrete cracking like dry wood. A woman south of the city says her brother saw one moving along the Platte River, its back breaking the surface as it swam. She says it looked like a shadow in the water, so large it pulled the current with it. Are they real? I think they are. The striders follow something, and you don't get packs without predators above them. Here's what I can give you. If you're near open water, stay away. If you're in a tall building, use it for sight, but not for refuge. Once they know you're up high, you're trapped. And whatever you do, don't gather in large groups outside. Large groups make noise, Large groups attract attention. The old instinct to huddle together might kill you faster now. I can feel the walls of this city folding in, block by block, silence pressing harder every hour. But you're still listening. I'm still talking. That means the line between what we were and what we're becoming isn't gone yet. Hold your ground where you can. Move only when you must. And remember, daylight doesn't mean safety. It just means you can see what's coming a little sooner. This is Tanner Briggs, 103.2 FM, staying on air as long as the fuel holds. If you can hear me, you're not the only one left.